Hi, I hope you're doing really well today. This is Dan here, and in this lesson I'm going to show you these 4 quite unusual, really cool bass techniques. And as we go, I'm also going to show you a little bit of an insight into what I was actually doing in that intro and how I was using them and how I was practicing them. So the first technique is Abe Laboriel. His son is actually in Paul McCartney's band now, but Abe Laboriel Sr. is the original guy. He's played on so many sessions. It's brilliant. I mean, I probably will do a whole video on him because he's got so many kind of things going on here, but a couple of things I'm going to show you. He just really turns the bass into like a percussion instrument. He's from Mexico City, and a lot of the kind of flamenco classical guitar influences come in. So this can sort of wreck your nails a bit at the back, but that's where I'm aiming for this. So it's a little sort of strum downwards, like a flick of the fingers, really, kind of out like this. The notes I'm playing here are frets 7 of the G and the D string. And I'm using these 2 longer fingers here just to mute the E and the A strings, because when you're strumming especially, which is an unusual thing to do on bass, this technique here is probably something you wouldn't play in 90% of bass lines, but muting the E and the A with these longer fingers. He does this kind of thing a lot, so I'm barring these 2 notes with the first finger so that you come down and you aim for the D and the G and you hit those 2 notes. Then immediately after that, coming down with those 2 long fingers just to get a kind of dead percussive sound. And then the third movement is the upstroke with completely dead notes here, just with the fingers across the strings. That gives you 1, 2, 3. I'm also just pushing up the tip of the first finger against the underside of the A string, and that really mutes everything, or at least the G, D, and A strings. And Abe puts any kind of real rhythmic emphasis into his playing like that. Everything I'm playing, and I'll piece this together as we go, is in the key of B minor. B minor pentatonic scale. And these 2 chords here fit really well. They're both dominant. Here's the shape. G, and then down 1 fret. F sharp. They just work really well. I'm just making this up and I think that sounded good. So there's a parallel here with the next technique, which is chucking, but I'm just using the back of the nail here to strum like a guitarist would. And Abe Laboriel, he does sometimes play like a guitarist. Like I said, this wouldn't be appropriate for a lot of bass playing, but it's cool to do. So I've got the shape there, the 2nd, 1st, and 3rd fingers, pushing up the 2nd finger against the bottom of the E, so everything is muted here. You press down just these 3 notes, you get a dominant chord. And to make it really short, you just release pressure with all 3 fingers. This is going to take you a little bit of looking at if you haven't done this kind of thing before, but I thought it would be fun to look at. Really coming off that short. And then you can do ghost notes as well to get the more percussive element into it. Just going down 1 semitone there, 1 half step. I'll slow this down. So I'm going strum, and then up, down, up. Slowing it right down to this, okay? And that's really you're being a guitar player here. I probably will do a whole video on Abe Laboriel techniques because he does a million other things that are really, really cool. But let's move on. To slightly more familiar territory, for me anyway, I've done quite a lot of chucking technique, which was pioneered by Bernard Edwards of Chic fame. And it's very similar to what we just did before, except instead of strumming, we're kind of just picking 1 string. With our imaginary pick, I've got thumb, first finger held together, downstroke is a sort of where the fingernail is, and your fingernails might get a little bit wrecked, so I hope that's not a massive problem. So you've got the downstroke and then the upstroke taken care of. I'm doing it this way anyway, with the fleshy part of the index finger. You can get a bit of thumb in there as well, no problem. So here's the shape I'm using for just improvising around this. Got your B minor pentatonic. And just these notes here, just the continuation of the shape down this way, but I'm just using these notes. The A, the B, the D, and the E. So. And if you use hammer-ons, a little bit of vibrato, that's a shake. All techniques that I teach in my funk bass course. Use all these things, it sounds really good. At one point I did this. I was just channeling Jimi Hendrix. He does this kind of thing. So I'm going frets 7 and 9 on the G string. It's one pick, so one downstroke with that nail. I'm doing a hammer on, followed quickly by a pull off. I'm going down, down. That's the next note I'm catching. The 9th fret of the D string. I'm just continuing that pattern. And then the same. And then the same. See? Do that again. So fret 7, 9 with a hammer on pull off on the G. And then bouncing down to that, the next note in the scale. 9th fret D string. And then move that exact pattern to the D string and A string now. A little bit of blues scale there. Really bouncing on the string here. That's 8th notes and 16th if you double the speed. So it's very similar to the Abe Laboriel, style of playing. And this is just an example of something that you can do. So I was just listen to so many different types of players, and I get inspired by anything. Now, of course, quite a lot of the techniques in this lesson are quite advanced. I get very inspired by the simplest playing as well. So it's not all about pyrotechnics. But I just thought that it was quite a cool transition to go from the Abe Laboriel type strumming of chords to the Bernard Edwards chucking. It works really, really well. I'm rubbish at double thumbing, that thing where you use your thumb as a plectrum, but I love this. It feels more natural to me. So that's where I want to go. I want to explore that a little bit more, even though in 95% of the playing I ever do for recording and for bands, I wouldn't probably do this. I still like it. Next, we have quite an unusual technique that Rocco Prestia used to use, and it's left hand muting. If I play a B on the 7th fret, that's how you would normally fret the B. He would play it with his 1st or 2nd finger often, and then just bring the 3rd and the 4th finger down onto the string he's playing, just to mute it a little bit. So this is unmuted. That's completely muted, just a little bit halfway. You get that kind of dead sound, for want of a better word. And he used to use that a lot, especially with 16th notes. So again, I was slowing down there. Those are 16th notes. Now, since the 2 fingers at the back here, the 3rd and 4th, are doing this sort of mute technique, he would use his 1st and 2nd fingers to fret. Consequently, you have to sort of shift around to do this. Now, got a lot of A's and B's here because these notes work in this key. A little chromatic movement into there. Another thing I found myself doing this week is going down a Marcus Miller rabbit hole and watching loads of his clinics on YouTube. And anything he plays, he improvises and it sounds great. And I want to be able to do something like that where you can just pick up your bass and play. And I'm going to do loads more videos like this. And that's sort of why I'm teaching you the notes behind what I happen to be doing. You can do anything you like with these techniques, but I'm just, got this B minor thing I'm kind of sticking to. So I'm just using really an A and a B and a D and an E, which are all part of the B minor pentatonic sort of pattern around here. All those notes sound great, even with chromatic notes in the middle there. And I'm using 16th notes, and that's what it is. Now, Marcus Miller listened to loads and loads of bass players growing up, and he just listened and figured it out made his own thing up. And that's what you must do. I very often teach in this way, where I tell you that this note works, this one works. But the secret to all of this is for you to listen to as many players as you can, preferably in different styles, and try and work out what they're doing, and it will be this sort of thing. So playing a B. Ghost notes. That's when you just come up off the note and you get like a full percussive dead sound. Jumping to the A on the 5th fret. And then shift it, and then just going chromatically back up to the B with this sort of 2-finger thing at the back here, just muting. It's not a technique that you hear an awful lot from many players, but I just think it sounds brilliant. Then the last kind of unusual technique that's really brilliant, that I only found out really recently about this, was Tony Levin playing sledgehammer. And I noticed he was doing those upstrokes. And that's quite unusual when playing with a pick. Now, generally when you play with a pick, you've got downstrokes, which is where you go down, and an up where you come up. A little bit like the chucking, where you're just going down and up with your imaginary plectrum. Now what Tony Levin does is he favours upstrokes. He uses upstrokes way more. And actually someone on Instagram saw my video, and I tried to get the message, I couldn't find it. He knows Tony Levin really well, and he said that that's a deliberate thing that Tony came up with back in the day to try and just get his pick attack to be a bit more like plucking. When you pluck from this side of the string and end up on this side of the string. Exactly the same as you do with upstrokes. If you start on the bottom side of the string and you come up. And apparently that's what Tony Levin wanted. He wanted to create that sound and that feel by doing that. And I think that's really unusual. I also read that the great session bass player Will Lee does that a lot. And I know he's in the Fab Four, is that what it's called? Yeah, the Fab Four, the Beatles tribute band that he's got. So maybe that's what Paul McCartney did. Someone can tell me. Is that what Paul McCartney did? Did he favour upstrokes? But anyway, that's something that that can sound really unusual. It's a bit sort of heavier, a bit weightier than playing with, maybe a bit more consistent. What I was doing here. All upstrokes, but here I'm kind of G, A, B. And it's kind of like this. We've got a G chord, an A chord, and a B minor chord in this key. Now, I'm not playing chords. I'm playing sort of, that's a G and a B, that's a major third. That works over that G. Same shape, 2 frets up, that works. And over the B it would be minor, okay? So that would be learning what chords and triads and arpeggios fit over each sort of note of a key. And if I know that, which I do, I've got a video and I'll put a link to that. Because if you learn that, you can improvise in the kind of way that I'm doing here just off the bat, right? And those little fill-in notes there come from the key of B minor. So that's kind of what's going on here, is just a selection of notes that work, trying to get some different techniques and practice that. I've got loads of free drum beats on my website. I'll put a link to that so that you can download a few of them. I think working with a metronome, working with a drum beat is pretty much essential when you're practicing to get all of this stuff in time. And like I said, whereas I probably wouldn't play this a lot in the gigs or the recordings that I do, I think it's brilliant just for touch, for technique, to learn something new, to be inspired. And I hope that has inspired you a little bit. These are players that I absolutely love. I'm going to go down probably the Abe Laboriel rabbit hole a bit more, because that guy's just, some of the stuff he's done is amazing. And yet he's played on Let It Go, the Frozen film that my daughter so loves, and I'm trying to get the song out of my head. I think it's that song. He's played on just everything. I just love players like him that can do everything. So I'll probably do a lot more on him. But if you have any questions on any of those techniques, if you want me to dive a little bit deeper into any one of them, or indeed, how I'm creating these bass lines, then let me know. I do have loads on my website already and also on YouTube channel. So thanks very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. See you next time.